In this video, I will discuss why I continued to work out after my surgery, what benefits I believe it brought for myself, what complications I had to watch out for, and what kind of workouts I was able to do with my arm in a cast. So a quick little update. I am 4 weeks post-surgery. I increased my extension another 10 degrees this morning, so I'm now sitting at 30, which is pretty good. I feel like I can extend it more. So I take this thing off when I rehab it. And during my rehab, I feel like I can extend it past 30 degrees, but just as a fail-safe, I keep this on for most of the day. I have so much more movement and capabilities with my right arm to the point where I have to remind myself every now and then that you're still healing and that you shouldn't use it even though you can. So an example of that is now when it comes to carrying water bottles, plates, and whatnot, I am right side dominant. Just by habit, I'll go and reach out for things with my right hand, but I got to remind myself that stay off of it and use my left hand when I can, just to give this thing a break, let it do its thing while it's healing. And I'm starting to feel more human. I went to a dance class sometime last week, and that was fun. Not only am I a bad dancer, but because half of my body wasn't working, it was very interesting. I am now working out 4 times a week, 2 upper body days and 2 lower body days.
Daddy's gotta go to work.
I was very scared initially when it came to working out in my plaster cast because everything would kind of just be held within that thing. And like sweat, bacteria, the fact that the incision site was still fresh and not healed yet got me a little worried about post-surgical complications such as an infection. And so that limited the amount of workouts I did as well as the intensity. So the workouts that I was doing, I would take longer gaps in between just so that my body wouldn't sweat as much as I normally do when I work out. I also stayed away from running because that for me is, I sweat the most when I run. My cardio for the first 2 weeks basically included taking my dog out for a long walk or hitting the Stairmaster for a very short amount of time just to get that increased heart rate. It got to the point where post-workout, I would come home and before I jumped in the shower, before I bagged up my plaster cast, I would sit there with a blow dryer with cool air and I would blow dry the inside of my cast just to help dry up whatever sweat I produced inside that thing. It wasn't a good look, and it led to me not working out as much as I could have or I wanted to, but I still managed to get out there 4 workouts in the span of 2 weeks, which was enough for me to keep sane and give myself the stimulus I felt I needed as opposed to just laying off physical activity for 2 weeks completely. So up till now, still no running. I was told the impact of jogging or running, though it be minimal, would do damage to the endo button healing, especially for a heavy guy like myself. So I stayed off of it. And for a guy that doesn't enjoy cardio anyway, it was an easy letdown for that one. I started going back into the sauna and cold, which feels amazing both for my body and my mental. I mentioned in my first video that contrast therapy, jumping from cold to hot, was one of the modalities to help heal this injury. So as soon as my incision was closed and my stitches were out, I jumped right back into it. So now to get into the benefits of why I continued working out throughout my recovery. There are 2 ideologies for rehabbing this injury. There's the wait and rest completely for 6 weeks post-surgery, and then there's the active recovery. Medical practitioners, my surgeon included, will ask you to lay off of any physical activity for up to 6 weeks post-surgery. Full disclaimer, my orthopedic surgeon wanted me to wait for 6 weeks. I remember going in and asking him the day of surgery when I'd be able to get back on my feet. I told him I was training for a full marathon prior to the injury and I wanted to keep that going if I could. That's when he told me that running could lead to complications, the micro shocks that your body endures with each step, which made sense, and I laid off of running completely. But what didn't make sense, laying off of working out my legs, working out my non-injured side. And I understand that as a medical practitioner, they always err towards the side of caution. Now, that's fair, but I feel like in today's time, medicine, especially when it comes to either pharmaceuticals or surgical rehabilitation programs, I think they need to be a little bit more individualized. And I think we have the data And we also have the resources now to actually apply that. These rehab protocols that they're giving us post-surgery are given to everyone. And they don't really look into your background prior to the injury. So for instance, an 80-year-old patient that comes in with a detached bicep tendon, let's say he did it from lifting up his grandchild, will be put on the same rehab and recovery schedule as a 20-year-old athlete who tore his bicep doing a competitive powerlifting competition. And I understand that the injury is identical, but the bodies of the two individuals are completely different. You can't expect that an 80-year-old man's body will respond to the surgery the same way as a 20-year-old athlete's will. And so I think if you give someone a blanket recommendation saying stay off your feet for 6 weeks, it's very safe, and I understand that at the end it will work, but I also think that the body is capable of doing more in between that time, which is the ideology and the mindset that I took upon my healing. So there's a scientific term called cross-education. So this basically means that training the contralateral side will affect the injured side. Studies have shown that by continuing to work out, you have less atrophy, meaning you lose less muscle at the end, as opposed to someone who didn't work out throughout the whole period. Now, I'm not that vain as to say that I'm working out just so that I can keep the size of my arm. I don't care for that. I know that muscle memory is there, and at the end of rehab, it will be very easy for me to obtain the size that I had lost. I'm not trying to reach a PR. I'm not trying to get into the best shape of my life or step on a bodybuilding stage or anything. That's not the purpose of these workouts. I'm working out to give my body a healthy dose of endocrine hormones that will allow for repair of this tendon as fast and as efficient as possible. So I'll link to papers in the description as to the fine details about cross-education with respect to neural mechanisms, muscular mechanisms, spinal mechanisms, and cortical mechanisms. But to sum it up, I'll use an example. If we were to work out our legs, our endocrine glands will secrete hormones that will enter our blood and have its effect on the legs. But because the blood circulates everywhere, those hormones will also reach our arm, which is what we want, because those hormones will allow for an increased rate of recovery and repair. Also, the systemic dilation of blood vessels will allow the shuttling of nutrients and the rid of waste products and metabolites from the area, which is an ongoing process. The body's breaking down scar tissue, building up new tendon, and so by increasing the blood flow of that area, it will allow the nutrients and the metabolites to be exchanged. Another benefit while continuing training is just your overall hormone regulation. So I discussed in my first video that growth hormone and testosterone are both huge players when it comes to growth and repair. So it only makes sense that by naturally increasing those two hormones, we're going to speed up the process and the efficiency as to how the body heals itself. And by abstaining from all physical activity, we don't give our body that opportunity. We don't give ourselves that chance to have those spikes in growth hormone, those spikes in testosterone. There is a fine line of how much testosterone and growth hormone you release versus how intense of a workout you're going to have. You'll see the clips that I post at the end of this video that I'm not going super intense when it comes to weightlifting. I'm very relaxed while I'm doing it, but I'm still getting a stimulus as opposed to none whatsoever. And I am being cautious that the incision is still new and I'm not trying to increase pressure on the injured site. All right, so here's the first workout of the day when it comes to lower body. I was just doing some warm-up reps on this Smith machine, I guess it's called. I never usually use this thing. I was working out with my buddy there. You can see him in the back. We're just going ATG, getting that flow going. You notice how my hand is open and I'm not in a fist. That's just to prevent any undue tension on that injured site. So same thing, just added a little bit more weight. Felt great to get under the bar. Especially with this amount of weight on the back. And then we move into Romanian deadlifts, a 45-pound dumbbell there. But what I found is that because you're only holding one dumbbell, you're engaging your core a lot for the stability, which is great, because then I find that my abs and my core is just taxed at the end of these workouts now compared to before, because I'm always trying to stabilize that ipsilateral side. So take that and do what you will. Next workout here is the lying hamstring curl. And that makes me laugh because I don't really like doing this exercise. I think that it puts me in a very unfavorable position, very susceptible to injury. Next exercise in that workout were machine leg extensions. And the machine that they had at this gym was one of those rockaway machines, which I don't like. I don't know what the purpose of you leaning back the middle of the motion is. Maybe some of you guys can let me know. I personally like the ones where you're fixed into place and the only thing that's moving are your legs. And then just finish off with some calf raises, standing calf raises. First exercise on the upper body machine day were some shoulder press, military press movements. You can see my hand again is open, not making a fist there, just a different angle. Same thing, you can see my tempo. And before all these workouts I didn't mention, I do warm up for about 15-20 minutes on the stationary bike, and I do some dynamic stretches, as well as now I started doing bicep curls and tricep extensions, warming up the arms, because that's something I didn't do when I got injured deadlifting, and I'm not going to take that chance. I think that's going to be forever implemented in my warm-up routine. So the next exercise here is some high rows. You can see that I got into it by jamming out to some Taylor Swift through the headphones there. Totally forgot to not grab with my right arm, and so I was grabbing the bench there. Halfway through, I kind of corrected it. And my next set, and I did that weird floating awkward hand, just like a weird judo chop in the air. I guess better than grabbing the back of the bench. And again, a weight that isn't too crazy. I think I got like 8 to 10 reps here. All right, next workout was the decline press. This is not something I normally do. My chest and my traps genetically just overpower my shoulders, and I feel like bench press and incline are more than enough for me. Next exercise was the seated cable row. I'm going to give myself a little twist here, feel it better. Again, the hand open palm. This is the machine row. In the beginning, I grabbed the back of the bench just from habit, and then I noticed halfway through that what I was doing, and I corrected it. So these are definitely going to come about when you work out. You're not used to having a floating hand. You're taught to stabilize yourself with the opposite side. First of all, you're usually using the other side, so it's a little different, but you'll get used to it. And none of the weights you're using are too extreme where if you do it for a couple reps and you notice it halfway through, it's not going to be detrimental. Next workout was the incline chest press. You can see my face there, nice winces and grimaces. Just a different angle. Same thing. I think I got about 8 reps here. There's that floating hand coming into frame. And this was towards the end of the workout now, so you can see that the intensity was building up. So I drew a line here. Oh, maybe not. Maybe I kept going for another set. Nice guy there at the back, my homie. What's up, homie? Picking up his 5s, doing his thing. Big breath. Yeah, that was probably the last one there. And then I just did some chest flies. So I finished it up with some rear delt work. Rear delts for me, shoulders in general, were always very hard to form that mind-muscle connection. This exercise being probably one of the hardest. I feel like my traps take over a lot. And so you can see I hold the machine with kind of a hammer grip. I know some people hold it with more of a neutral grip, but I find that this is what works for me. So this is one hack I learned from a friend when I discussed my woes of side delt training. So when you're at the cable, holding this attachment, which is usually used for cable rows in this way, helped isolate the side delt. And so instead of using your normal handle for this motion, I use this attachment, and it made it feel like the side delt was actually getting stimulated as opposed to the arm or the trap taking over. And that was pretty much it. Those were my 2 days working out back to back, lower body on the Monday and upper body on the Tuesday, followed by some Normatec recovery. The next video I'll come out with will probably be discussing other ways to increase your growth hormone and your testosterone, or it could be the other 2 workouts of the week that I have, which are more centered towards dumbbell work and barbell work. See you guys on the next one.